There are various kinds of dairy farms. There are the very large farms which are owned and operated like factories. On such farms, the cows are merely efficient machines for making milk, and dozens of trained workers are employed to care for them and to prepare the milk for market. But most dairy farms are smaller farms, such as the one we're about to visit. Here, the owner, Mr. Johnson, lives and works on his own farm. The children play and work here when they're not in school. They needn't go to the park to play. They have the whole outdoors to play in every day. On this farm, they can even fish in their own backyard. Well, what's this? The bull has seen us, and he's warning us not to come too close. But probably he's only hungry and wants something to eat. He likes his food of ground grain. At other times of the day, he is also fed hay and green fodder. These year-old heifer calves are also hungry and are waiting to be fed. They are Guernseys, as are all the cattle on this farm. In another year or so, these heifers will be grown to full-sized cows and will produce rich, creamy milk. The combination of ground grain, alfalfa hay, and green grass which they are fed makes them the healthy calves that they are. One of the very necessary requirements on a dairy farm is a plentiful supply of good drinking water. Since even the richest milk is composed largely of water, cows must necessarily drink a lot. This artesian well keeps the calves well supplied. And here is a little newcomer with his mother, having breakfast. This little calf is only a few days old, but he has a big appetite, and how he enjoys the rich, warm milk. Here are the cows after the morning milking, going to spend the day in their green pastures, from which they will be brought in again in the late afternoon for milking and for additional feeding. Meanwhile, our little calf has finished his breakfast, and what a contented look he has. His mother will have to hurry if she's to join the other cows on their way to the pasture. In another nearby field, a colt wants its breakfast. What an easy, carefree life a colt has. But by the time he's 2 or 2.5 years old, he'll be grown up and will know what hard work is. This beautiful stallion is the colt's father. He's a purebred Belgian draft horse. How large and powerful he is compared with his little offspring. Out in the hayfield, one of the farm hands is cutting grass with a mower. The sharp sickle moving back and forth near the ground cuts the grass off clean as the horses pull the mower along. This is easier than in pioneer days when the cutting was done by hand. With the mowing finished, the horses are unhitched from the mower and hitched to the rake. This hay, cut a day or two earlier, is raked into windrows with a side delivery rake in preparation for loading and hauling. Here we see the loading of the hay onto the hay rack. The hay loader, which is fastened to the back of the wagon, elevates the hay onto the rack. The full load is hauled from the field to the barn. Horses are also used for this work, but Mr. Johnson uses his tractor for hard pulling whenever he can. Back at the barn, the children scamper into the haymow before the load arrives. A hay fork on a long rope pulled by the tractor lifts the hay into the mow. Ah, our boys and girls come scooting down just in time to keep from being buried by the huge forkful. With the hay safely in the barn, the men now turn their attention to other things. Although the corn is getting rather large, it still needs attention. And here, one of the men is doing the last cultivating of the season. Mr. Johnson believes in raising much of the food for his cattle and horses on his own farm. This is a field of barley. It's almost ripe and ready for harvesting and threshing. In another field, we find oats. This too is almost ripe. When threshed, this grain will fill Mr. Johnson's granary to overflowing and provide plenty of cattle feed for the winter. No farm would be complete without chickens, and here are some eating grain which has been scattered on the ground for them. In the hen house are still other chickens, probably laying eggs. What a noise they make, and how excited they get when the eggs are gathered. Eggs are healthful food, and who wouldn't enjoy the fresh eggs right from the hen house? And here is the dream of every boy and girl, a Shetland pony and its colt only a few months old. And kittens, why, no farm would be complete without kittens. The grown-up cats keep the buildings free from mice and rats. But we'd better not show too many pets, or you will all want to move to the country. Out in the pasture, Betty Lou tries to pet the cows. But they don't care to be petted. Cows are too large for pets anyhow. Summer is the most delightful time on the farm, and it's also a busy time because all the food must be grown and stored for the winter. It is now late summer, and the corn is full grown. This corn is being cut for ensilage. The corn binder is pulled by the tractor here, but sometimes horses are used instead of a tractor. The corn that isn't needed to fill the silo will be husked or shredded, and the ears used to feed the hogs, the chickens, and the horses. These bundles, however, are being hauled to the silo for ensilage. The tractor, which was used to pull the binder and the wagon, is now used to run the ensilage cutter. As the bundles of corn pass through the cutter, the stalks are cut into little bits and blown through this long pipe into the silo. The finely cut corn is called ensilage. In a few weeks, it will ferment like sauerkraut and be ready for feeding. The cows are usually milked twice a day, morning and evening. It is now late afternoon, and the cows are being brought in for the evening milking. Shep, the farm dog, is always on hand to help Dick and Betty Lou with this job. The cows are fed and milked in the barn. Each cow knows her own place and puts her head through the stanchion, which, when closed, holds her in place while she's being fed and milked. Although they've had all the green grass they can eat during the day, the cows now are fed ground grain to give them some of the food elements which may be lacking in the grass. Next, the cows are thoroughly brushed and cleaned to make certain that no dirt may get into the milk. Their udders are washed to remove any mud or dirt which might have gotten on in the pasture. Flies are bothersome pests, so the cows are carefully sprayed to kill them. In earlier years, milking was all done by hand. Now, much of it is done by milking machines, such as this one. Each machine has 4 cups, one for each teat on the cow's udder. Listen to the action of the pump drawing the milk out of the cow's udder and into the pail. No dirt will get into this milk. This cow is milked by hand. Watch the hand squeeze out the milk and listen to the tune it plays on the bottom of the pail. Next, the milk is weighed and the weight recorded. Then, it is taken to the milk house and carefully strained through a fine cloth. Most farmers deliver their milk to the creamery or cheese factory or collecting station in 10-gallon cans such as this one. But since Mr. Johnson sells his milk direct to the city buyer, it is bottled for delivery. Cooling the milk stops the growth of bacteria and helps to keep it from getting sour. Next, the bottles are capped and then stored in a refrigerator, awaiting delivery to the city market. Next morning, Mr. Johnson loads up his milk truck and starts out to his route in the city. And so we bid farewell to Mr. Johnson's dairy farm.